Hey everyone, I went to an Indian demo day and rode several of their bikes. We're going to continue our 2024 Versus series talking about these rides and comparing the Indians with their greatest rival, the Harleys. There is a vast difference between the Harley demo rides and the Indian demo rides. With Harley, you have to attend a safety briefing before you can ride and follow several rules like no passing, no slingshotting, stuff like that. The rides are always led by Harley people, and before each ride you have to sign up for which bike you want to ride next. The Indian demo rides are nothing like that at all. Once you've verified your motorcycle endorsement and received your wristband, it's a free-for-all. On the first ride, you're expected to go with a leader so that you learn the route you're supposed to take for the rest of the rides. After that initial ride, you can ride whenever you want and whatever bike you want. You don't have to go with a leader, you don't have to go with a group, you don't have to sign up for a bike. All you do is just grab a bike and go. Generally speaking, this works fine when you only have a few people, maybe 10 or 15, but when you get 20 or 30 people and you only have 11 bikes, it becomes a little chaotic trying to figure out who's riding which bike next. Honestly, when there aren't many people, I actually like Indian's method better. It's so much more fun to just be able to grab a bike and go without waiting for a leader and without being limited by the people in front of you. But I didn't enjoy the process when there were a lot of people there. You go to get a bike and someone else gets there first, so you have to sit there and wait for them to get back. The other downside is that people tend to bend the rules because there are hardly any rules to bend. I heard guys talking about riding off the specified route to get some extra ride time, doing their own thing, etc. One guy I was talking to said that he was there last fall and he went off the road and got lost and ended up doing spin outs in a parking lot somewhere, dropped the bike and whatnot before he came back. In the meantime, other people who want to ride that bike have to sit there and wait. So that is another downside of the free-for-all method. The location for this particular Indian dealer wasn't really great either. This dealer is about a half hour from my house. I'm fairly familiar with the location. There really aren't any good twisty roads in that area. A couple of fun corners, but nothing that really stands out. And there's a decent amount of traffic, so car and truck traffic definitely slowed things down at times. Also, the dealer did not get the full Indian truck for this weekend. They just got the trailer, which means fewer bikes. Several of the bikes were not present: the Scout Classic, Super Scout, Chief Bobber, Chief Dark Horse, several others. I really wanted to ride the Springfield Dark Horse, but it wasn't available on the trailer. What we did have available was the FTR R Carbon, Scout Bobber, Sport Scout, 101 Scout, Sport Chief, Super Chief Limited, Springfield Classic, Chieftain Limited, Challenger Dark Horse, Roadmaster Limited, and Pursuit Limited. I rode 9 of those 11 bikes. One thing I experienced across most, if not all of the Indian bikes, is the reach to the bars. If you've watched my channel for any length of time and remember back to when I owned both an Indian Scout and then a Chieftain, I struggled with the length of these bikes in the long reach to the bars. I'm 5'6", and every single one of these bars was a stretch for me. Of course, some bikes are designed that way on purpose. The more sporty bikes have an aggressive stance. The Sport Scout and Sport Chief, the FTR, the Scout 101, for instance. But even on the bikes that are supposed to have a relaxed riding position, the Springfield, Chieftain, Challenger, I could feel a little bit of strain on my shoulders from reaching to the bars. Probably the one bike that was most comfortable with the stock bars was the Springfield. That bike comes closest to being comfortable for me. They had also put reduced reach bars on the Roadmaster, so that was very comfortable for me. Even though the reduced reach bars only give another 2 inches of pullback, that 2 inches made a huge difference. So if I were to get an Indian, reduced reach bars would definitely be in order. Let's get to the actual review. I did something at the Indian demo day I haven't done before, and something I've talked about fairly often. Today we're talking about a test ride on the Indian FTR. This is the FTR R Carbon, and the seat height on this bike is 31.7 inches. Many of you probably know that I'm short. I have a 29-inch inseam, so I've always stayed away from tall bikes. But I sat on one of these in the dealership and realized that I can easily support this bike. Simply keep my right foot on the pedal and my left foot on the ground, no problem. The FTR is fairly light, so there's no issue holding it up with one foot. So I decided to take it for a spin. Indian has 6 different FTR bikes. They all have a 1200cc engine with 87 foot-pounds of torque and 120 horsepower. They range from 515 to 525 pounds, and cost ranges from $13,500 to $19,000. The closest bike Harley has to the FTR, I think, is the Sportster S. Price starts at $17,000, right in the middle of the FTR range. The Sportster S has 93 foot-pounds of torque and 121 horsepower, slightly more power than the FTR's, and also weighs less, so has a better power-to-weight ratio as well. 1 point up for Harley. Both bikes have an aggressive forward-leaning riding stance, but the FTRs have rear-mounted foot controls, whereas the Sportster S has forward foot controls. It took me a little bit to get used to the rear controls, but once I did, it felt very natural, considering this is a very sporty bike. With the Sportster S, the forward controls don't feel very natural to me for a sport bike, almost like they're trying to make some sort of weird hybrid between a cruiser and a sports bike. I give the point to Indian for the rear foot controls. The Sportster S has a 34-degree lean angle, while the FTR has a whopping 43-degree lean angle. For regular street riding, this really doesn't matter. Those kinds of lean angles are only going to matter on the track, in my opinion. The sound on these bikes is fairly similar. Both have V-twins that sound something closer to a parallel twin. I think the FTR sound is slightly deeper than the Sportster S, but not enough to matter. As far as handling goes, both bikes handle quite well. I didn't have an issue with either one. The Sportster S has a much bigger front tire, but I didn't notice any issues with handling at low speeds or fast speeds. The FTR has 6 models, as I mentioned: the base model, the Rally, the Sport, the R Carbon, the 100% Collaboration model, and the Hooligan model. The Sportster S has only 1 model, multiple color options, but only 1 model. As far as the overall fun factor and riding experience, I give this to the FTR. Both bikes have lots of acceleration, plenty of lean angle, tons of power, and good handling. Thank goodness for the helmet chin straps, because on both of these bikes I could feel the wind trying to pull my helmet off. But the FTR edges out the Sportster S just a little with the rear foot controls. It really makes this bike feel like what it is, a sport V-twin. It felt natural to run the bike fast and push the corners. With the forward controls on the Sportster S, it doesn't feel quite as natural to have the aggressive riding stance, in my opinion. Not quite as fun for me. My initial thoughts getting off these bikes is that the Sportster S is a lot of fun, but when I got off the FTR, I felt like that was an absolute blast. So the win between the FTR and the Sportster S goes to the Indian FTR, just barely. It really comes down to your preference with the foot controls. So that's it for this 2024 Versus video. Stay tuned for the next one. We're going to tackle the Indian Chief bikes. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. See you soon.